in a holy place.
Good morning. My name is Irv Lacho. I'm a member of the UUCA board, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's service. The theme of today's service is home, and that's a theme that really resonates with me, especially this week, which I have found to be particularly challenging. In many ways, I feel that UUCA is a spiritual home for me, a place of community and refuge, and a place of social action, which is something that our society truly needs. And I'm so grateful for all the wonderful work that so many of you do to try to help make our society a better place. For those of you who are new and maybe joining us for the first time, please know that you are welcome, and we look forward to getting to know you better. And to that end, I invite all of you to please join us for our virtual coffee hour after the service, where we have an opportunity to discuss today's sermon or any topics that are on your mind. That said, I look forward to chatting with you online, and I now am happy to turn this over to Kristin Keller.
It is That Time and That Place by Kiyama Raman, a UU minister. Now is the time to call on the memories of the ancestors who thought they could not walk another step toward freedom, and yet they did. It is that time and place to call on the memories of the ancestors who, when the darkness of their lives threatened to take away the hope in the light, reached a little deeper and prayed yet another prayer. It is that time and place to remember those who came through the long night to witness another sunrise. It is that time and place to remember the oceans of cheers shed to deliver us to this time, to remember the bent knees and the bowed backs, to remember the fervent voices asking, begging, and beseeching for loved ones sold off. Time to remember their laughter and joy, though they had far less, and little reason for optimism, yet they stayed on the path toward a better day. Time to hold to the steadfast hands and hearts and prayers of the ancestors that have brought us this far. Time to make them proud and show them and ourselves what we are made of. Time to show them that their prayers and sacrifices and lives were not in vain and did not go unnoticed, nor have they been forgotten. Did you not know this day would come? Did you not know that we would have to change places? Did you not know that just as our ancestors were delivered, that you would also be delivered. Have you not seen the greatness and power of the creative energy in the universe called God that moves and has been through human agency? Have you not seen God in your neighbors' faces, in the homeless, in the battered woman, the trafficked child, the undocumented worker, the dispossessed? It is that time and that place to know that it is our turn and that we must leave a legacy for our children and all the children. It is that time and that place. We are the ones we've been waiting for. For that, let us be eternally grateful. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to join us in lighting our chalice. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. And though this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons who fill you with fear. Though your troubles, they might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. Gonna make this place your home.
Hey, hello there, it's Paul. Can you guys guess where I am? This is the roof hatch that lets us up onto the roof of the church. There's a secret ladder, as you can see, and I'm up on the roof right now. So, anyway, I'll see you in a minute. Hey, where am I now? What kind of a crazy room is this? This is the pump room. This is where all the hot and cold water is circulated to create warm and cold spaces in UUCA. The water circulates through these pipes and pumps and is either cold or warm depending on whether it's winter or summer, and that's what gives us air conditioning and heat in all the many rooms all through our building. And as you can see, it's just a crazy mess of pipes. Hey Marianne, what does this thing do? Just where am I now? This is another crazy looking room. I don't know what I'm doing today, but this place is nuts. All right, this is the actually the boiler room at UUCA. I'm sure a lot of you remember UUCA. It's the church. It's a big building. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a time far away, we used to gather here on Sundays to have worship, to go to RE, and people met here at all times of the day and night to do all sorts of different things. Fight for social justice, to learn about new things, and just to generally get together. Unfortunately, we can't do that right now because of this pandemic, and we don't really know when we're going to be able to start again. But one of the things that we are doing is taking care of this building in your absence so that it's ready for you when you come back. Everything has to be looked after. We are not really heating it and cooling it, even though all this stuff is ready to go. But it's going to be ready for you when you come back. So we're here taking care of things, and hopefully someday in the not too distant future, we'll all be back here and we'll be able to worship together. Don't come back in this room. Off limits. Thank you. All right, bye.
Thank you, Leah, for that beautiful music, and thank you, Paul, for that fantastic story. We're going to hear from our children now, a song you've perhaps heard from them before, a recording of the UUCA Children's Choir. They are singing a song from Joseph Shabalala, Tu la Cliseo. Shabalala wrote this song on a trip to New York City, away from his native South Africa. Apartheid was in full effect, and Shabalala was unsure whether he would be able to return home. I invite you, as you hear the music, to open your heart to Shabalala's words. Tu la Cliseo, na la pasekaya. Be still, my heart. Even here I am at home.
Tu la poesia, la pasekaya. Tu la poesia, la pasekaya. Ei, kaya, la pasekaya. Ei, kaya, la pasekaya. Tu la poesia, la pasekaya. Tu la poesia, la pasekaya. Ei, kaya, la pasekaya.
Tu la Cliseo, na la pasekaya. Be still, my heart, even here I am at home. I invite you into a time of prayer and meditation. Close your eyes if you would like, or soften your gaze. Be still, my heart. Even here I am at home. Spirit of life and love, let us be at home. Let us feel at home in this time, in this space. Let our hearts be at home, at peace. Open them, allow them to welcome in all that is. Center them so they may be present to now. Be still, my heart. Even here I am at home. As each of us sit in our homes, perhaps, may we feel them to be just that, a home for us. And may we know we are part of a larger home, one that embraces all that is and all that will be. May it be so for you and for us all. If you have joys and sorrows that you hold in your heart today, I invite you to share them in the chat with the hashtag Book of Life, or to send them to uucabookoflife@gmail.com. Let us share the being, the doing of our lives with each other, even and especially as we are at home.
There are many candles we light in the sanctuary, in our homes. There is one light, one flame that burns in each of them. Wherever you light a candle, may you feel the warmth, the power of that flame.
As we explore together today the idea of place, of what it means to be part of this place, UUCA, and away from this place, I begin with the land, with the place where the building sits now. I bring to mind all of those who have been inhabitants of that land from before recorded human history. The Nacotchtank people, from which the word Anacostans was derived, a people with no living descendants today. The Piscataway people and Powhatan people in the Anacostia River Valley and out into Virginia and the Chesapeake Bay. All of the people who have lived on this land, forced out, immigrated in, brought in through capture and enslavement, the many feet and bodies and souls that passed by on the land that UUCA now sits on. That land, I know, is so important to so many of us. The plants and the trees, the flowers, the benches, the paths. Perhaps you have a special spot where you like to sit after services are over. Or perhaps your children are missing the playground. Maybe you have rolled up the ramp to find a welcome at the wide open front doors, or maybe, like a UUCA member I spoke with this week, you spent your whole first year ducking in through a back door and then escaping through a side door so you didn't have to talk to anybody at coffee hour. Each of us have a relationship with the place of UUCA, even if we have never walked in the doors, never rolled in or moved through the lobby, never been in the building at all. The place still exists in our collective knowledge and imagination. And it begins, like all places, with the land. Jennifer Firestone writes in this poem, "This place. This place, previously in a vision, wet pen drawn at the line, a place religiously tied, religiously, a person, place, or thing. Bring thy pebble, or thy flowers, or thy inscription. Bringeth your love. Dear ones, bringeth your love. Ashes to trees. The trees." Firestone invites us into the feeling of being in a place tied religiously to our very selves, to our own ancestors and the ancestors we never knew, to our own descendants and descendants we cannot yet imagine. I invite you into a journey of UUCA's place and a little bit of what it has meant to all of us.
Hi, this is Diane Julius, UUCA's commissioned lay minister, and I'm talking today with Molly Jewell and Roger Souls about the UUCA Memorial Garden. Molly, what would you say is the importance of the Memorial Garden to UUCA?
So let me talk about what the importance to me was. When I was a new minister and I was walking up the ramp to church one day, I looked down and saw the whole garden withering in the big drought we were having. And I thought, oh, this is not a good look to lose the history and the lives of the people who came before us. So I started dragging hoses over there and watering the garden, and I've been hooked ever since.
You mentioned history. Roger, what does the Memorial Garden mean to you?
Well, to continue the history theme, it is like a history book to me. All the people that are here and names are on the stelas, the committees that they've been on, how they built this church, how they maintained the church, how they increased the church. It's all right here. This is where the activists seem to be. It's a wonderful place.
To whom does the Memorial Garden especially make you feel connected? Molly, how about you?
So I would say it's not a particular person. When I first started working in the Memorial Garden, I was just here, just started. I didn't know any of those names. But it's just the idea of all those people who had a deep connection to the church and wanted to be here forever.
A connection. Roger, to whom does it make you feel connected?
Well, I have a very personal connection. My first wife is here, Stella for her, and there are even people like, there was a young Boy Scout who met a tragic end. His remains and Stella are here. But also the others you've worked with, and you remember the wonderful times you've had with them. So it's not a sad place, it's kind of a happy place in many regards.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you've done to make the Memorial Garden such a special place. And we give thanks also to Carol Hopper, who has been a big deal to our Memorial Garden.
Here we are on the playground at UUCA, which unfortunately is currently closed. Some of you may know this place well from frequenting it before or after services. Others may know it quite well, as I do, as the AUCP playground, the preschool here at the church. And when I'm in this place, I feel socialization, connection, play, squeals of joy, sometimes squeals of sorrow, conflict, resolution, sharing, and kids who would run out to expend their energy and just feel freedom and liberation. All of these feelings may be very familiar to many of us right now. How do we feel connected to a place that we are not physically in, and one that may have been taken from us, even if temporarily? These questions bring up for me the many evictions that are occurring or could be occurring very soon for our neighbors here in Arlington, and I know that Voice is working very hard on that. But coming back to this place, in the playground on UUCA, take a moment to meditate on this space and try to remember the feelings you felt when here and how you may be yearning to replicate that in other parts of your life. See what comes up for you and just let them linger for a bit. Here we are in another beloved space on the UUCA church grounds, the hallways of RE. And as we both stand here in these hallways, more feelings that are coming up in this place, in this space, are learning and discovery and interaction and play, fun, spiritual learning, spiritual growth. And I just want you all to take a moment to think about this place and this space and some of the feelings that are coming up for you. And I was speaking with Olivia, my daughter, and now that you're in the hallways here at RE, what are some of the feelings that are coming up for you?
Well, I did have a friend, Carmen. We used to see each other at church and came down here on the hallways of RE. And we always had so much fun. The teachers were so kind. We played games. We had really fun things. So it's really nice to be back in the RE hallways. It brings back so many memories that I hope you guys have too.
That's really great. So for the children that are listening and just thinking about some of the things that you would do here in RE and how families could recreate that at home. And Olivia, a lot of children like yourself, as we go back to school, are going to be doing learning online, virtually, and they can't attend RE in person. So what are some of the things that we do here in person? What are some suggestions you have for kids at home and how they could kind of recreate that at home and have those same feelings?
Yeah, so, I know a few people who kind of go to school for a few hours, like people in our neighborhood, but people who are doing it virtually, you can still have fun learning. You might just be online, but think of like you being here. Have fun learning. So that's what I hope you can do when you learn virtually.
So for our community, just thinking about how RE is such a rich part of our community, and for our families who have children that do attend the programs here, and especially since we are losing that very valuable in-person time, to just think about what this place means to you, what it embodies, the feelings that it evokes, and how, as much as possible, we can try to recreate that at home. So again, we'd like you to just take a moment as we pan a shot of the hallways and just focus on some of those feelings.
Hamba no Jesu, indlela yonke. Hamba no Jesu, 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 hamba no Jesu.
Hello, my name is Pat Pindickolu and I'm a leader with Voice. I'm thinking of the phrase sense of place and how it relates to the work of Voice. Sense of place to me conjures up a list of words. Words like connected, welcoming, safe, belonging, identity, beauty, history, narrative, and traditions. Before the pandemic, working with Voice, I witnessed how the affordable housing crisis was impacting people's sense of place, although I never heard anyone use that term. Voice rarely had a listening session without participants bringing up affordable housing. Mothers sometimes cried because they feared they would have to leave Arlington and pull their children out of the schools that they loved. We heard from assistant teachers who lived in the historically Black neighborhoods of Arlington, and they worried that the rising rents were going to force them to leave this place that their families had lived in for 3 and 4 generations. Then the recent arrivals. Daniela was studying and working in Arlington until her family could no longer afford their 2-bedroom apartment. She told me she loved Arlington. It was her new country. And moving to Woodbridge made her feel like a migrant again, leaving home. So a sense of place was collapsing for these families, but Voice was organizing and experiencing some success in funding, in policy changes, and new building projects. And then the pandemic hit and the housing situation worsened. 30 to 40 million people in America could be at risk of eviction. 500,000 in Virginia, thousands in Arlington, and no surprise, the hardest hit communities of color. So we are now way past worrying about the loss of a sense of place. We are talking basic needs, a roof, a way to avoid homelessness. My young friend who was once homeless said, "Pat, when you are fearful of becoming homeless, nothing else matters, nothing." So Voice has had to be nimble to shift the focus to this current emergency that could devastate our communities. But Voice is on it, working hard at the local and the state level for eviction moratoriums, for funding for rental relief, for reasonable payment plans. And Voice is in for the long run, for housing, for criminal justice reform, for voter participation, for justice, for a world where everyone feels a good sense of place. So thanks to UUCA for being a founding member of Voice and its 52 institutions. We invite you to get on our mailing list, show up when you're called, visit a core team meeting, and share your dollars by becoming a friend of Voice. Thank you so much.
In The Power of Place, Sacred Ground in Natural and Human Environments, Thomas Bender writes this: "An act of love or giving is the single most powerful act in making or using a place. The most mundane building can be transformed through the spirit with which it is used, expressed in the flowers in the window, the well-scrubbed doorstep, or the smell of freshly baked bread. What counts is that someone has done the best, not the least, they could do. And that comes not from necessity, but only from love." As I listen to reflections on the Memorial Garden, as I listen to Kristin talk about what the playground and the preschool space has meant to her family, and as I watch the animation that invites us into the feel of the youth room, the destination of the moment, I can see the love that people have put into UUCA. You can see that love from the very beginning, I think. The love in the original building, now where the parking lot lies. The love in creating the new building, in reimagining and copying the mural, old building to new, which we'll see a little later. Everything about the UUCA building was an act of someone's love, someone's imagining of what could be, someone's hope that an institution would survive beyond their lifetimes to serve their descendants and descendants they could not yet imagine. As I walk through the space myself, I am filled with those memories of what has been. And as I hear your stories, the memories come alive to me. Place is not just the four walls, but all that happens within it, all that makes a place special. I invite you to travel with us again through the chapel and into the sanctuary. When I was getting the first tour of UUCA, I remember walking into this space and feeling, I'm not sure quite what it was that let my body open and my soul feel peaceful. Maybe it was just the quiet. I had a chance to ask Rabbi Gila of Kol Ami how they felt in this space when they worshiped. And this is what she said. Kolami loves meeting in the chapel, the light through the stained glass windows, the cozy space that envelops us, the beautiful mural that encourages us to lift up all faiths and religious traditions as well as our own. It's a holy place that has nurtured our Torah discussions, strengthened our community bonds, and inspired our prayer and meditation and music. A holy place. What are the holy places for you at UUCA, in your own home, in the paths that you walk, or the world around us? The places that remind you of your values or that connect you to your center. I knew when I walked in this room, it was a holy place. In the ethical culture tradition, Felix Adler said, where people meet to seek the highest is holy ground. Perhaps that's what I recognized. I can't wait to see this space with children seated here and to feel the energy of the building alive and loud again. But in this moment, all I hear are the ancestors gathered and the peace within.
Walter, the center to me, although not at the center of the building, feels like it is a center space for people to gather. I know that the center is where our Muslim friends pray together. It is where the Chalice theater actors play together. What else happens in these walls?
Well, it's interesting that you talk about the play aspect of it, because not only do we have coffee hour that takes place in here, as well as in the fellowship hall area, one of the things that happens during the service is this is the room where the families go if they feel like their kids are too squirmy, they don't want to distract, and we have the service projected here. So one of the things I think about the center is it's a space that allows people to open themselves up a little bit and to play and interact in a more genuine way.
I love to think about now our families aren't gathering in this space together, they're in their own homes, but still watching and still playing together in the chat or in Zoom or in their classes online. We're still finding our center together.
Yeah, it's really amazing, again, talking about how there's a sacredness to the space, but how the space holds the connections we make within it, even when the space isn't there.
Mm-hmm. And this space allows for, I think, almost anything to be painted on its walls, whether it's the service projected or the theater created or a religious space or a justice space or a connecting space. It has an openness that invites all of us in.
It does, and we've had art shows in here for members of the community. We've had lots of different displays. This is where the Mistletoe Mall takes place. There's so many different activities that open people up to just be themselves and enjoy each other. And a lot of it happens here, and it's a beautiful space to share.
The center, place to play.
Place to play.
I haven't yet been in this sanctuary when it is full of you, and yet when I walk in, I can feel you here. The stories you have told me of the services that moved you, of singing Mozart's Requiem and filling the halls with sound, I can feel the layers of who you are, of the prayers and hopes, the songs and bells, of everything that has filled this hall. And UUCA's hopes and dreams are not the only ones that fill this hall. So many of you have told me stories of coming in for the first time, not thinking you were looking for a church, coming for some meeting or another, and finding that something about this space called to your heart. I spoke with Jonathan Faust a few days ago about all that this space has been for him and for his students. I asked him if he would tell me what it means to him, and he sent me these words. To me, there is nothing as sacred as a safe space where we can pause and, undefended, open to what is true. Over these years, each Monday night we have gathered in the sanctuary, turned to acknowledge each other, and dedicated time to turn inward and explore our personal relationship with presence. This most delicate work can only be done when we feel, as we have, both the spaciousness of this room and the protection of love and care that comes from this community. The spaciousness of this room and the protection of love and care that comes from this community. I can feel it in this place. I can feel it in the stories you tell. I can feel it in who you are.
Space isn't sacred because we say it's so. The sacredness of space comes from the gathering of souls, from people putting their heart, their spirit, their love into the community that the space represents. So many of us were here when we made this quilting pattern to show us that the space is more than just a building, that we each have a different, beautiful, unique part to play in inhabiting this space. Just as the children downstairs in RE do beautiful work in their spiritual growth, just like our covenant groups work together to keep each other accountable, each of them a different shade of spiritual love and community. And when they bring it all together, that is what makes our space sacred. It's in the doing that goes on within the walls. So, one of my absolutely favorite sacred spaces is right here on these steps. I miss these steps something fierce. And part of it is very much obviously because this is where Time for All Ages happens. And when we talk about sacred space, we often think that sacred needs to be solemn. And one of the things I think the children who come up during Time for All Ages remind us of is that spirituality doesn't have to be dour, that it can be joyous. And the gifts that they share with us in this space bless us going forward. And one of the other things I really love about this space is that these steps are worn. There's scuff marks on these steps. And I know for those of you who think that everything needs to be beautiful and perfect, this is something that needs to be polished out. And yes, it's nice to keep it clean. But there's something about it being used and being loved by so many people. I love the fact that we have worship associates and congregants who share this chancel. The sacredness is not just for those behind the pulpit. The sacredness goes beyond all of that. It is shared by each and every one of us. And that is why these stairs
are so very special to me.
I'm a fan of the work of N.K. Jemisin, who writes speculative fiction, science fiction that imagines new worlds. Her most recent book is The City We Became. And in that book, Jemisin imagines cities as living, breathing entities, almost as people or as angels or saints, existing themselves as an organism, linked to the world around them, but also separate from it. I wonder what would happen if we imagined places that way. If we imagined that UUCA, the place, is not the walls or even what exists within the walls or happens within them, but instead an entity itself, a feeling, a connection. What would happen if we could take UUCA, the place that we miss, that we wish to see, that is not replaceable by our home spaces, our living rooms and our bedrooms and our studies, where we now Zoom into meetings and watch worship on a screen. But what still if we could take that place and imagine it still existed for us in the places where we find ourselves now? What would it feel like or look like to be at and in the place of UUCA, even in this very moment? We're going to hear a little bit from Linda Lutz about how she has taken some of the beauty she has created at UUCA into her own home. Perhaps we might be so inspired.
Good morning. I'm Linda Lutz Cosoro. When Reverend Amanda asked me to do a reflection about altars, my first reaction was, what's an altar? Dictionary definitions talk about structure, offerings, sacrifice, all kinds of religious stuff. Yuck. Today, let's use time, memory, space, meaning, and center as our touchstones. When we've built altars for solstices and labyrinth walks, first-time altar builders often say, I couldn't do that. Why me? Where would I start? But start we did. First question is, what do we want our altar to say? Then we look for stuff and put it out so all can see it. Now the fun begins when somebody grabs something to cover the surface. Then each of us adds, subtracts, and modifies as we quietly share our thoughts and feelings. We seem to sense when it's done, and usually there are some whispered wows or who knew. At home we can do the same thing to center us, celebrate, acknowledge, laugh, cry, and hope in our times and space. Altars can be simple, like a shell from the beach with a candle on a special plate sitting next to our keys near the door. Or we can do more. A few years ago, I found a Buddha figure that I liked. Since then, I've added incense, water, fire, air plants, bamboo, sand, chimes. While the altar changes, it remains my steady center year after year. Or sometimes an altar has a special meaning, like my summer altar that takes me to the beach when I can't get there. And it's fun to see an altar change in perspective. For example, ask the kids, grandkids, your friends, or anybody else to participate. I'm sure my summer altar would likely change significantly if the youngsters had a hand. Each of these altars or sacred places allow me to honor space and time. So I sit and wander with my spirit through my soul and the world. Now I invite you to find a special space, add meaningful stuff, and then wander through your spirit in a quiet time. It's not only fun, it also gives meaning to place and time. Namaste.
How do you shape a place to be sacred? How do you do that now in your own home? To be special, to be set apart, to center your heart so that you know when you're there, you are at home. As we miss being together in the four walls of UUCA, or in fact the many more than four walls, I invite you to use this time to shape your own place. Whether it's a single candle on the desk next to your laptop, or a flower by your bedside table, whether it's a picture that you love or a postcard tacked up on the fridge, add one thing to your space this week that reminds you that it is indeed sacred, because you are in it, that it is special and set aside, and that you might find there stillness, joy, that there your heart might be at home.
Over the past few years, and especially the past few months, we have learned that we are the church. All of us, together, create a beloved community. We may be away from our building for a while, but we find sanctuary in each other. And our work continues through covenant groups, religious education, the music program, our social justice ministries, our pastoral care team, and many more endeavors. The mission of this congregation continues through these difficult times when we realize how very important it is to be part of a community. We are temporarily suspending our Share the Plate program to focus on all the ministries of the church community. By giving to UUCA, you contribute to the spiritual center that keeps us all connected. You support all of us in our collaborative efforts to make a difference. You can mail a check payable to UUCA with the word offering or pledge in the memo line. You can give online at the church website, uucava.org. Just click on the donate button on the top of the page. Or you can donate by text. Or you can donate by using the mobile app, Give Plus. Just enter the zip code, 22204, and choose our church, UUCA, and follow the prompt to give now. Our offertory prayer reminds us, let us be grateful for when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. And so we commit this offering, and so we commit ourselves.
When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home, I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. Wind that makes the tall trees bend into leaning. Suddenly the snowflakes that fall have a meaning. there's a chance for me to go back now that I have some direction. It would sure be nice to be back home where there's love and affection. It just maybe I can convince time to slow up, giving me enough time in my life to grow up. Time, be my friend. Let me start again. Suddenly my world's gone and changed its pace, but I still know where I'm going. I have had my mind spun around in space, and yet I've watched it growing. If you're listening, God, please don't make it hard to know if we should believe the things that we see. Tell us, should we run away? Should we try and stay? Or would it be better to just let things be? Living here in this brand new world might be a fantasy, but it's taught me to love, so it's real to me. And I've learned that we must look inside our hearts to find a world full of love, like yours, like mine, like home.
May you have this week love overflowing. And may you find yourself at home, both in the walls that surround you and also in the Zoom home, in the internet home that we all share. I invite you now, if you are watching on Sunday morning, to join us for our coffee hour. We'll be together in one big Zoom space for a while, but then we'll break into smaller groups. And together we will explore how we know we are home, how we make a place sacred. One way for me is to invite people into it. And so this week I invite you to our coffee hour to invite each other in to the places we occupy, both limited and limitless. Come and be in a place together.